Welcome to another episode of Elite Politics. This time we're going to talk about the dilemma that Xi Jinping has, which is trusting people or to not trust the same people. Xi Jinping recently handed over an important task for internet censorship to one of his chief of staff, or who I like to call is the butcher of Xi Jinping, Cai Qi. He's actually seen as the real number two in power in the Communist Party. Well, at the same time, Xi Jinping has also rendered the premier, who in official title is actually the number two, powerless. And this move is to ensure that Xi Jinping's control has a balance of power distribution among the various different sort of sub-factions within his own Xi faction. But it also points to us a troubled state of his party affairs, which we're going to highlight today. The simple truth is that Xi Jinping doesn't truly trust any one of his officials. Now that Cai Qi is the head of the internet, which is a title that Xi Jinping once held himself, he is seen as the one who Xi Jinping trusts the most at this particular moment. And it shifts the signal that it used to be a development favored side of China into a full-on embracing the national security side of Xi Jinping in China. Now, the internet censorship is a paramount issue in terms of keeping the Chinese Communist Party's stability going. Now, in fact, in my view, since the 1990s, internet censorship has been the most crucial component in which the CCP has been able to sustain its power, given the fact that it's blocked the access of information for the hundreds of millions of people in China so that they can continue with the lies and propaganda. He is not the official number two in the power ranking, but he is the chief of staff to Xi Jinping. So normally a secretary role like that should not have real power. But what Xi Jinping has done is he's stripped the ministerial side of things, so his actual premier and those side of things, and moved that power to the secretaries, so that secretaries now have more power. Now, Cai has even appeared in solo activities in place of Li Qiang, who is the premier overseeing the economy. He recently met with Blackstone's CEO, Steven Schwarzman, in a meeting. Now, this isn't to say that Cai Qi knows anything about the economy. Neither does Li Qiang. But to be in those positions, it's not really about your talent. It's more about your loyalty to Xi Jinping. And that's really what Xi Jinping's got to work with so far. His team are consisting full of people who are supposedly loyal to him, but they don't have real talent when it comes to managing the economy. As we've seen so far, it's not working out so well. And the people that truly do have talent within the CCP, they might not be that loyal to Xi Jinping. So he views loyalty above everything else. Now, at the top echelon of power right now, they're all Xi Jinping's people. So like I said, technically they're all loyal to Xi Jinping. But within the minds of Xi Jinping himself, he's very paranoid because he thinks that they're not truly or absolutely loyal. So his answer to this problem is to shake up the power distribution, to reassign who is doing what, or who has what kind of power. Now, why does this actually matter? Well, for one, official titles and roles don't really matter in the CCP anymore. You could be, some made-up moonwalker or whatever your role is in the CCP. Your actual power is not moonwalking, or if you're the premier, you don't actually have a say in the economy anymore. So because Xi is wary of anybody he uses, he's always within this sort of need to battle and struggle to find the next person who's absolutely loyal for him. I guess that's just the nature of dictatorship. Paranoia lives alongside the regime. Of course, it also contains the intra-factional power struggle within the Xi faction as well. Now, here's a picture that perfectly highlights the state within Xi's own faction. This is a photo taken at the recent annual meeting in Beijing. And it really adds context to this episode. So here you see four people. You see Xi Jinping, Li Qiang, someone named Wang Xiaohong, which we'll talk about, and also Cai Qi. Now, Premier Li Qiang suddenly leaned down and reached to his left-hand side under the table if he was picking something up. Now, Wang Xiaohong, the guy sitting in the row behind, is carefully watching him. He's actually the chief security official, or the chief of public security, aka the police force. He seems very concerned about what Li Qiang just did. To the left hand of Li Qiang is Cai Qi. Here he looks motionless, almost like he's sleeping. That's just how he looks. But in fact, I think he's actually secretly very careful of Li's every move. And then to the right-hand side of Li Qiang, of course, is Xi Jinping, who looks at him with disgust as if he just made some sort of a massive mistake on stage. And this really highlights a dynamic I think I can only summarize as predators becoming prey. Each of the three men On paper, they work for Xi Jinping, but they're also very wary of each other's actions and what sort of powers they have. Now, of course, we know that Xi Jinping is very much cautious about Li Qiang, and that's not just because of him, but because anybody that sits in this quote unquote number two spot, the premier, Xi Jinping has to be wary of them because that's the person that technically threatens them the most with power. And because of the history of the CCP, which I'll talk a little bit more later, the number two spot is the most dangerous actually for power. So it's like he placed every goon behind, and then another behind that, and another behind that to watch each of the person in front every step to ensure that nobody is conspiring or plotting against Xi Jinping. Does Xi Jinping truly trust that the guy sitting behind them in the second row is going to watch Xi's back against these two? Or does she truly think that the people in the to the side of him are actually loyal to him? He's unsure of any of it, right? And he's also scared that by giving Cai Qi too much power, maybe he's going to plot some sort of a treason against Xi Jinping as well. So everybody seems loyal on paper, but in reality, in the eyes of Xi Jinping, is trying to undermine him. How can you be sure that the chief of police isn't trying to do something behind, right? Before we continue, Blueberry Creative is having a spring blossom sale that goes till the end of Sunday, which is March 31st. Here, you can use my discount code DAVID for a 15% off on all products in the store right now. And you get free shipping if you've spent $70 or more. Products like Taiwan High Mountain Tea and Dermaroller face masks are some of my favorite products that I recommend. So check out the link in the description and hurry up for the sale before it ends on Sunday, which is March 31st. All right, back to the video. But still, the reality is this. Even Xi Jinping himself, no leader can do everything. Xi Jinping can't do everything from military politics to economy within 24 hours. He has to assign some stuff to his deputy. And so he chose to give that power of the internet censorship to his chief of staff right now, who is Cai Qi. Now, Cai Qi actually has a lot of role he already plays. He does propaganda. He oversees national security. He has roles within the censorship of that. He also arranges the daily activities of Xi Jinping. So he has many hats that he wears. But then adding this one in particular shows that right now Xi Jinping believes he is the most trustworthy among all the other ones, relatively speaking. So that's the bizarre situation of the CCP, right? Xi Jinping uses one person to watch another, to watch another, to watch another, and so on. And so he is scared to overuse anybody or to create a serious power sort of concentration within somebody else. He's always wary of that. So who knows, one day Cai Qi might fall out of favor very soon, or it could be, a year down the line. Who knows? But the idea here is very important. Now, we know that in Xi's world, talent really comes secondary to loyalty. But he also has a third problem, which is that loyalty has to exist on a space in which that he can be sure they're not trying to plot something against him behind Xi Jinping. And this really boils down to the fundamental existence of the CCP or the Communist Party in general. They're rooted in a word of struggle, right? The day that the CCP was born, they were struggling. And this struggle comes in many forms. People against people, party officials against party officials, factions versus factions, etc. They're always fighting, and it has to fight. That's the way of the Communist Party, is to sort of evolve itself. It has to struggle. It has to constantly purge people and has to go through bloodshed, right? That's communism. And so even if Xi Jinping monopolizes all the power, they can't avoid internal strife. And so this inherently makes the political situation unstable in the sense that there is no, you never know what you're getting. And also because we know the CCP is in its end days, just based on the state of the country right now, Xi Jinping facing internal and external pressure at the exact same time, he really it's one of those situations where he doesn't really have an out. And so to create the maximum amount of space to relieve pressure at the moment, he has to play this sort of people and personnel changes, right? But this could backfire in that some people might end up reacting to this with a survival instinct, saying that if I don't survive, then I'm going to have to do something to survive. Kind of like a Prigozhin situation brewing in China. Now, what sort of prevented this situation from boiling over in the past was a pseudo-separation of power. So traditionally, at least after Mao died, China went through a period of collective ruling, which is that the general secretary, who is Xi Jinping, would control politics. And then the premier of the state council will control things like the economy. And so the two, so number one, number two, they will sort of have a split in responsibilities to ensure that they both of them actually have concrete power, but they just have different aspects in which they controlled. And it really prevented what Xi Jinping is doing now, which is to take power away from people so easily. Now that Xi Jinping has removed this collective ruling aspect from the CCP once again, it goes back to the imbalance, right? The instability that we're talking about. Now, of course, Xi Jinping coming to power in 2013, he's already done this once with the last premier, Li Keqiang. So this is the second premier in which he's rendered useless already. Now, we already recently covered this in more details, so I'll leave the link in that episode here. What Xi Jinping has created today is a formal number two and a shadow number two, right? So the formal one is Li Qiang, the shadow one is Cai Qi. And it really, again, reflects how unserious this form of political power is, that is communism, which is that they just randomly decide who gets to go into power, who gets to do what, behind closed-door negotiations. The paramount leadership isn't even elected within the party. It's actually chosen behind closed-door negotiation as well. And it's a back and forth between different factions. And so what people get to do, who is the next official, they're all decided just based on people exchanging like values and differences on what should be the priority of the party. Now, when it comes to concentrating the idea that you remove the collective leadership, it's not the first time that the communist leader has done so. Stalin has done it. Hua Guofeng, the man that existed after Mao Zedong died, he's also done it, provided for a very short time. Mao himself actually didn't do this. He had a partner. He had a guy named Premier Zhou Enlai. Now, Zhou was just absolutely loyal to Mao. Even when he had cancer, to the day that he died, he was still loyal to Mao. Zhou also had another characteristic, was that he was very talented in what he did. Now, these are two criteria in which Xi Jinping cannot afford to have in people today. Like I said, people who are talented in his party they're not really loyal to him. People who are not talented, well, they're very loyal to him. But there's also that third problem, which is that absolute loyalty aspect, right? Xi Jinping can't trust anybody. But the general idea is that Xi Jinping values loyalty more than talent. And you can argue that right now Cai Qi is the closest for Xi to who Premier Zhou Enlai would be to Mao. But this really, again, it's the double-edged sword. So to conclude today's episode, I want to highlight this. First, let's talk about the positive of Cai Qi being in power. So Cai Qi is a very ruthless, he's a very brutal leader. When he was the provincial party boss or the city party boss for Beijing, he drove away a huge population of migrants. He called them low-end population, and he didn't really care how these people would live on. And then he's very willing to do things that Xi Jinping tells him to do. So in that sense, he's very loyal and he's willing to execute. That's why I call him the butcher. And once he gains this power, he clearly becomes the actual number two in terms of how much he actually has. Like I said, he's very responsible for different things like propaganda, national security, Xi's daily affairs, and all these things. He's personally responsible for it. And so that shows that as long as you get on the good side of Xi, you can enjoy power. But on the other side, so here's the negative, right? If Cai Qi realizes how much danger he's actually in, because once he does something or he acts in a way in which immediately draws the suspicion of Xi Jinping, even if just a little bit, then Xi is going to grow wary of him very quickly. And that's going to be his downfall. So if Cai Qi is smart, he has two ways out. First is he eliminates Xi, which is probably not something he's going to do. But the second is he exits power voluntarily. He gives it up the second that he realizes he's in danger. So let's just see how smart he is. But for everybody else, same thing. If you're trying to fight back your power, you're going to end up in jail. Otherwise, you're just going to have to hope that you can fully exit the political stage in China without getting harmed. So the story continues to be one about gaining favor of Xi Jinping, and let's just say that everybody's trying to show loyalty. It just depends on who Xi Jinping believes is relatively more loyal at the moment. All right, that's it today for the episode of Elite Politics, explaining what the state of Xi Jinping's mind is like when it comes to using people and manpower. If you enjoy the content, leave a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel today. Before we continue, here's a sponsor.